Welcome to another video, everyone. I've recently been listening to Dr. Becky's book, Good Inside. You may have heard of it. She's a very popular, or at least recently, very popular psychologist. She's really been helping parents and helping them manage children and parenthood and all that kind of thing. And her book has also become very popular. And I was not intending to listen to the book as a way to benefit how I help therapists start private practices, but I do think there are some things that I'm learning that could actually help people looking to start a private practice. And one thing really struck me today as I was reading it. She has this approach known as the MGI approach, and she calls this the most generous interpretation. Now, the way she's using it is in the context of parenting or caring for children. And what she says is that when we observe a behavior of a child, so let's just use the example of a temper tantrum, right? We see that temper tantrum, and she says a lot of people just naturally or impulsively or in a reactionary way have a negative interpretation. For example, what's wrong with that child? Why can't they get it together? Right? These kinds of interpretations. And we all know that that doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound good. That's not going to be helpful for the child. Right? And she says that we sometimes just kind of have those natural reactions. But with some practice, we can have a more generous interpretation. And she says that we should be really intentional about practicing the most generous interpretation. So what might an interpretation of that temper tantrum be that's generous? The example she uses is this. That is a good kid having a hard time. Right? Now we can obviously go beyond that, but you can see that we're observing a temper tantrum, and how we interpret it is going to change how we think about it and ultimately how we deal with it. That second one is going to be a much more compassionate approach than that first one. Right? But you might be thinking, Matt, that I'm not here to help you be a better parent. I'm here to help you start, run, and grow a private practice. So how can that MGI, the most generous interpretation approach from Dr. Becky, help us out? Let me give you a classic example of stories that I hear from therapists in private practice who want to start a private practice. All right, they have this thought, this dream of starting a private practice. They begin the research process. And, that's exciting stuff. But then as they go, they look at one video, they see another article and another article. It quickly becomes overwhelming and they feel overwhelmed. The initial interpretation is this: I can't do this. This is too hard. I didn't go to school for this. I'm not cut out for it. I'm going to give up. This is not for me. Right? It's an interpretation that they don't want to be true, right? That just doesn't sound right. This isn't for me. I can't do it. It's too hard, right? But and I was there, right? There were so many times I started and gave up. My interpretation was, I can't do it. This is not for me. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the business background. But if we practice the most generous interpretation approach, we can really change the way we think about some of the obstacles we hit. So rather than saying, I can't do this, this is too hard for me, we can say, I am able to do this. It's just a bit harder for me because I didn't learn it in school, but I can, and I can, not but, and I can, right? I am a therapist who's capable of learning new things. I am capable of achieving the goals I set for myself. And right now, the stuff I'm trying to achieve is going to take me a little bit of time to learn. I've never learned it before, right? We want to have interpretations that are more generous and that set us up for success. And so I wanted to encourage you today to start thinking about the obstacles you encounter in your private practice. And there's going to be a lot of them, whether it be you're starting your first solo practice, you're just getting your feet wet, or you're trying to start a group practice, right? Or you're anything in between. You're trying to get paneled with insurance companies. Don't settle for your initial, perhaps overly negative interpretation about yourself. Take a step back and give yourself a more generous interpretation, right? And it usually starts with something more compassionate and more truthful. I am capable of doing this, and this is hard for me, right? I have overcome things before. I have learned new things. I am capable of learning something new. This just happens to be harder than the last thing, and I can do it. And with some practice, I can get better. I can overcome this. So let's go for it, right? I think we can take this approach and really apply it here as those people trying to start private practices. Now, I hope you found this video helpful. I also recently, well, not recently, but I've been really ramping up efforts inside of my community, my consultation community. This is a community of folks looking to improve private practice, to start private practice, a group practice, all that kind of stuff. And we really do operate from the most generous interpretation approach. I do believe that everyone who wants to be in private practice, of course, there are limitations be outside of our control. But people who want it and people are really motivated to achieve this, we can. We're going to overcome obstacles, but we can do it. So inside that community, you're going to find a lot of support, you're going to find a lot of compassion, and you're going to find people who are willing to motivate you to really achieve your goals. If you want to join that, you can do that entirely for free for the first month. I will leave a code down below. The code is free month 2. The link to the community is down below as well. And I believe that this will be a community that will really help you thrive in private practice no matter where you are. All right. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you in the next video.